This is a story that stunned everyone on board a commercial flight. An 8-year-old billionaire girl had her first-class seat stolen by a passenger who refused to accept the obvious. What happened next left the entire plane in shock. And soon, the video went viral across the world. Before we dive into the incredible events that followed, tell us in the comments, which city or country are you watching from? Let's see how far this story reaches. And if you enjoy seeing stories of courage and dignity, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. Stay until the very end, you won't believe what unfolds. Sierra Langston was no ordinary 8. Despite her age, she carried herself with a calm confidence far beyond her years. Daughter of tech billionaires, she was already a coding prodigy, creating apps that amazed adults worldwide. Her parents encouraged independent travel to teach responsibility and confidence. And today she was boarding a plane alone for a surprise visit to her grandparents. Dressed in a soft hoodie and her favorite light-up sneakers, she carried her backpack close to her chest and a sketchbook in her lap. Unbeknownst to most passengers, a discreet security detail was seated nearby, blending in, ready to ensure her safety. But Sierra didn't act like a child. With bodyguards, she moved quietly and confidently. As if the world's weight rested lightly on her shoulders, Sierra walked calmly down the aisle, her sneakers blinking with every step. She reached seat 3A in first class, her designated place for this flight, and gently settled in, slipping on her headphones. Around her, passengers whispered, some glancing curiously, others frowning at the sight of a young girl alone in such a luxurious seat. Her sketchbook rested on her lap, the pencil moving in tiny strokes as she doodled quietly. The backpack hugged her chest like a shield, and she adjusted her hoodie without fuss. Everything seemed normal, just a child boarding a plane. Yet, an invisible tension hovered in the air, hinting that this ordinary moment was about to turn into something extraordinary. The calm atmosphere shattered the moment. A sharply dressed white woman stepped into the first-class cabin. Her eyes immediately locked on Sierra, and a flicker of disbelief crossed her face. She approached with a forced smile, but it couldn't hide her condescension. "Excuse me, sweetie," she said, her tone sharp. "This isn't your seat." Sierra looked up, holding her boarding pass firmly, eyes steady. "It says 3A," she whispered, her voice soft but unwavering. The woman snatched the ticket from her tiny hands and handed it to the nearby flight attendant, who glanced at it and hesitated. The white passenger leaned closer to Sierra, tilting her head as if trying to decode a mystery she couldn't comprehend. "Honey, you must be in the wrong place. Coach is in the back," she insisted. The tension began to build. The flight attendant stepped forward, trying to mediate, but misjudged the situation completely. "Maybe there's been a mistake," she said gently to Sierra. "Why don't you come with me?" Gasps echoed through the cabin. Passengers whispered, some shaking their heads. Sierra remained silent, her small hands clutching the boarding pass like a shield. Her security detail, seated discreetly in the back, exchanged silent glances, waiting for the right moment to intervene. Meanwhile, the white passenger's face grew red with frustration. "I am not moving," she snapped, clearly unwilling to accept the child's rightful place. Whispers grew louder, cameras discreetly lifted, and murmurs spread from row to row. The cabin felt smaller, the air heavier, as if every passenger could sense the impending confrontation. Sierra's calm defiance only added to the tension. She didn't argue or cry. She simply held her ground, letting the world know she belonged exactly where she was. Finally, the flight attendant reached for her radio and called for a supervisor. The white passenger huffed, arms crossed, trying to assert dominance. But the moment her voice rose, the atmosphere shifted. Meanwhile, the co-pilot, scanning the flight manifest, froze. His eyes widened, and his hand trembled slightly as he whispered into his earpiece, "Is this Sierra Langston?" A tense pause fell over the cabin, and the intercom buzzed. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated," the calm voice announced. "We are experiencing a brief delay due to a security concern." Gasps and murmurs spread quickly. Every passenger now stared, some wide-eyed, others snapping videos. The white woman's face turned pale, Realizing this was no ordinary child, the tension was unbearable, each second stretching endlessly. Every movement, every glance in the cabin held weight. Passengers leaned forward, anticipating what would happen next, aware that something extraordinary was about to unfold. Sierra's quiet composure stood in stark contrast to the chaos surrounding her. Gasps filled the cabin, and murmurs spread like wildfire. Some passengers discreetly pulled out their phones, recording the scene as whispers of disbelief traveled row by row. A few offered quiet encouragement to Sierra, nodding or giving supportive smiles, while others stared in stunned silence. The white passenger's face turned crimson, frustration bubbling into panic as the realization of what was happening began to sink in. She waved her arms, trying to demand attention, but her protests fell flat against the tension in the cabin. Every passenger seemed to sense that this was no ordinary confrontation. The anticipation was electric. People leaned forward, eager to see how the situation would unfold. Sierra sat perfectly still, unshaken, her calmness only heightening the suspense. Then came a sound no one expected, sirens wailing at the jet bridge. The plane vibrated slightly as FBI agents, calm but authoritative, boarded, moving with precision down the aisle. "Miss Sierra Langston," one agent asked respectfully, "we've been informed of a potential threat to your safety. Please remain seated." The white passenger's jaw dropped, eyes wide with disbelief. "Wait. This is," she stammered, but the agents ignored her protests. Passengers watched in stunned silence as she was gently but firmly escorted toward the exit. Cameras clicked, whispers turned to murmurs of awe. In minutes, the balance of power had shifted completely. It wasn't about a seat anymore. It was about entitlement, respect, and consequences. Sierra adjusted her headphones slightly, her eyes focused on her sketchbook, radiating quiet authority. Every passenger sensed the lesson. Even a child could command dignity and power without a word. Sierra adjusted her backpack, the straps snug against her shoulders, and leaned slightly back in her seat. She didn't speak, didn't shout, didn't even look at the commotion around her. Yet, in her stillness, she radiated a presence that captured the attention of everyone on board. The whispers shifted from surprise to respect. Passengers realized they were witnessing a rare display of quiet power. Young girl asserting her rightful place without aggression, without argument, without fear. The lesson was unmistakable. Entitlement has limits, bias has consequences, and courage comes in many forms. Sierra's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the chaos her antagonist had tried to create. By simply knowing who she was, she commanded authority far beyond her years. In that moment, the cabin understood that true strength is measured not in noise or anger, but in quiet confidence. Slowly, the plane began to settle. The murmurs quieted, replaced by thoughtful glances and soft nods of respect. Phones were lowered, and passengers returned to their seats, still whispering about what had just happened. The flight attendant, now subdued, carefully resumed her duties, aware of the lesson learned. Cameras and social media clips were already circulating, capturing the remarkable scene. Tension that had gripped the cabin lifted, replaced by a palpable admiration for Sierra's dignity. The flight continued without further incident, each passenger carrying the weight of the moment. Quiet authority had spoken louder than any argument could, and the lesson of respect and poise had been delivered perfectly. When the plane finally landed, the airline issued a public apology, acknowledging the mishandling of the incident and promising corrective action. Flight attendants and staff involved were disciplined, emphasizing accountability. Sierra, calm and composed, gathered her sketchbook and backpack, stepping off the plane as if nothing extraordinary had occurred. Her grandparents, waiting at the gate, embraced her tightly, unaware that their granddaughter had just taught a powerful lesson to an entire nation. Meanwhile, media coverage exploded online, with clips of the incident going viral within minutes. The story wasn't about tantrums, shouting or confrontation. It was about quiet strength, dignity, and the courage to assert oneself in the face of entitlement. Sierra Langston had shown that age and size are irrelevant when it comes to standing firm in one's rights. The world watched, learned, and was inspired by a little girl who refused to be moved. This incident is a reminder of the subtle ways bias and entitlement manifest in our society. A simple act trying to take a child's rightful seat became a teaching moment for everyone present. Sierra's quiet confidence and poise demonstrated that courage doesn't always shout. Sometimes it sits calmly, unwavering, demanding respect. What would you do if the next Sierra Langston sat next to you? Would you stand aside, notice, or act? Sharing and reflecting on stories like this helps build awareness. It reminds us that respect is earned and must be maintained, that dignity can be quiet, and that the actions of even one small person can ripple across an entire plane or even the world. If this story inspired you, share it, comment below, and let us know where you're watching from. Encourage others to see that courage can be quiet, power can be subtle, and respect is non-negotiable. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that highlight extraordinary moments in ordinary places. Remember, moments like these happen everywhere, and noticing them matters. Stand up for what's right, no matter your age or size, and let Sierra Langston's example guide the way. The world is watching, so act with dignity.